The Yamaha DX9, an instrument so technically and musically advanced that it has no peer. A keyboard so totally versatile and responsive that it becomes the standard by which other small synthesizers will be judged. The DX9 from Yamaha, a digital programmable algorithm synthesizer using sophisticated FM technology to create voices that are lifelike, warm, realistic, and rewarding to play. Together now, we shall explore this synthesizer from another dimension. Welcome to the future, the new DX from Yamaha. At any given moment, we can be doing one of three things with the DX. Preparing to play the synthesizer by programming and storing sounds into internal memory, adding performance function characteristics to the keyboard and controllers, and having made these preparations, actually playing the instrument itself. In order to enter into the playing zone, we must first set up the DX and connect it to either a high-quality set of headphones or a proper amplification and speaker system. Having placed the synthesizer on a sturdy stand and assuming that you are going to use an external sound system, you must patch from the output jack, which is located at the left side of the back of the DX, to the input of your system. Next, connect the volume pedal, sustain foot switch, and portamento foot switch to the clearly labeled jacks that are also on the back of the DX and adjacent to the output jack. If you own one, attach the breath controller into the jack located at the left front of the case. And finally, plug in the DX AC power cord. Turn the synthesizer on with the power switch that is located at the right rear, along with the power for your amplification system, and you are ready to start. Turn off the tape for a moment, and I'll wait for you to do all this. At this point, look with me at the face of the DX. Other than the keys themselves, only 4 controls are capable of motion, these being the overall volume output slider, the data entry slider, a pitch-bending wheel, and modulation wheel. The other 26 switches that you will touch are flat membrane switches and are color-coded for simplicity in operation. Note carefully that all controls that are used for playing the DX are green. All controls for setting the functional characteristics of the keyboard or controllers, tuning the DX to match other instruments, loading or saving sounds on a cassette recorder, adding portamento, preparing to initialize the memory for programming or to recall a non-stored edit, are color-coded brown. The third color that is used is violet, and these controls deal with creating the voices that are to be played. At the center of the switches, you will note a liquid crystal display next to an LED display that shows a number. The LCD is the instrument's way of communicating with you by displaying function or programming information. The LED display serves the purpose for letting you know which sound memory is being used. In order for this tutorial to be as clear and helpful as possible, your DX should be set to certain known values. At this time, then, press the brown function switch. Look at the LCD display. The top line of the display will read Memory Select. The bottom line will have a message that relates to the function mode. Next, press switch 1 from the group of 20 numbered switches to the right of the display. Sequentially now, press number 2, 3, 4, and so forth to switch 20, reading the message in the display after each switch. Reading the labels under each numbered switch confirms the name of the function that is available to be changed. This you have visually confirmed on your first pass through the switches. Noting the 2 sliders at the left of the face of the DX, you see 2 green switches. The first is labeled No, -1, off, and the other Yes, +1, on. By using these switches or the data entry slider, which is immediately to the left of these 2 data entry switches, you enter changes to either the programs, while programming or editing, or enter changes in information dealing with the functions of the instrument. You will now set your DX to the given knowns by following this procedure. From the set of 20, depress number 1. Read in the LCD the phrase Master Tune Adjust. Move the data entry slider up and down and listen to the pitch of whatever sound is in the memory change. The purpose of this entry, obviously, is to match the pitch of the musical programs to some outside source, such as a piano or what other instruments you are playing with. Small tape recorders and less expensive turntables are often not moving at the correct speed. If you were to choose to play along with one of these, you would want to adjust the pitch of the DX to match that source. Function 1 does just that. Now go through the remainder of the set of 20 using either the data entry slider or the on-off, yes-no, data entry switches, making sure that the DX function 2 is set at poly, function 3 at 0, 4 at portamento, 5 at 0, 6 at MIDI 1, 7, 8, 9, and 10 are not important right now. 11 should be set at 0, 12, 13, and 14 at off, 15 at 0, 16, 17, and 18 at off, 19 is not important. 20, which as you see is memory protect, must now be set at on. Perhaps you need to rewind the tape a bit to hear this section again. So now, turn off the tape, or rewind. I'll wait for you to get this much done. You don't have to program a sound to play the DX. There are 20 sounds waiting for you to hear right now. Press Memory Select. This allows you to choose from the 20 membrane memory select switches that are flat, numbered, colored green, and above the keyboard. These switches are the same ones that you previously used to establish the fact that the functions on your DX are at a known setting. You have now also discovered that these 20 switches do many different things each. Now press switch number 1. What you have achieved is that you have called from the internal memory the completed voice data and placed that information into a buffer. You don't actually need to know that yet, but later on you'll be glad you do. Fully depress the volume pedal first, and then adjust the output volume of the DX with the slider that is the farthest to the left of the set of controls. Turn your amplification system up to a comfortable level and play the DX. As you play, you can be aware of the fact that 16 notes can be played simultaneously. Take time now to go through the 20 different sounds that are awaiting your hands. Play some music. Enjoy switching from sound to sound by merely depressing one of the 20 switches. Turn off the tape for a while and enjoy the tonal dimensions available through Yamaha's FM digital synthesis. You have just experienced a musical fantasy, a new dimension of precision, a voyage through a tonal spectrum far more vast than you had ever expected to experience. All made possible from the powerful ability of FM synthesis to create sounds with uncanny realism and warmth. Choose any nice sound from the memory and we'll continue using that sound to teach you how to add the use of function switch. It gives you greater personal control over the sound that you are playing. Press function. Read the names under the 20 green switches, and let us add portamento to the sound. Portamento is the phenomenon of sliding from pitch to pitch rather than directly stepping to the next note. Press 4, and the display will read full-time portamento. Now press 5, and using the data entry slider, read in the display window that you can change the time from 0 to some larger number. The largest number that is available is 99. This will be the longest period of time that it can take to slide from note to note. Smaller numbers, logically, are shorter periods of time for the pitch slide. Play with this for a while until you are comfortable with the concept and somewhat aware of the amounts of time that are involved with different number settings. Note that large changes in the numbers are most easily made with the data entry slider and small increments entered with the +1, -1 membrane switches next to that slider. As a part of this experience, change from poly to mono and note that you have two choices of portamento available, full-time and fingered. Full-time is easy to understand. Everything slides all the time, but in the mono mode you can now play only one key at a time. Fingered portamento is understood by first playing each note detached from the next note. In comparison with that, if you play a second note while the first note is still depressed, the pitch will slide to that note. Detached goes directly to the pitch, and legato playing causes only the next note to be slid to whatever rate you have chosen. Play with the poly and mono modes using portamento. Try some different sounds on the DX in these two modes with the differing portamento modes, and I'll wait for you again. You're back. Reset your portamento time to 0 and be sure that the DX is in the poly mode. This time, we are going to again use function to program the range of pitch change from the wheel, the round controller at the far left side of the keyboard. Using your acquired knowledge, enter a number with the data entry system from 1 through 12. As you play a single note on the keyboard and turn the wheel either toward or away from you to the full limit of the excursion of the wheel, you note that the number 1 is equal to 1/2 step, while the number 12 is an octave. Each unit of 1 is a half step. Hence, the number 7 would be equal to a pitch bend range of a fifth. The range of pitch bend is plus or minus whatever interval you have selected, either sharp or flat, from the self-centering wheel. Leaving that, let us now look at the possibilities available using the set of 4 choices under the green membrane switches that are numbered from 11 through 14. This set, utilizing the function switch, controls the effect of the modulation wheel. First, we will set the range by pressing function and then 11, entering 99 into the display. Next, switch to 12 and turn the effect on using the normal data entry method. Press memory select and go through a few sounds utilizing the effect of adding vibrato by the use of the modulation wheel. Having done that, turn the pitch modulation off and turn on amplitude modulation using the same system that you by now have fully learned. Again, return to memory select and play. Again, seeing the effects that can be added with the wheel. Back to function and try out number 14, e.g. bias. Experiment with 2 at a time, then all 3. Change the range to hear that the amount of the effect is established by entering a larger number into range. Enter the correct information to return the modulation wheel to an all-off position. And if you have a breath controller, repeat these same experiments with this Yamaha exclusive device. As a comment, I might say that since you have a 16-voice instrument and a great opportunity to use both hands fully, it is often convenient to use your mouth as a controller rather than being forced to give up the musical use of your left hand on the keyboard. This is good news. You are halfway out of the Twilight Zone. With the information you have, plus one more bit, you are ready to play and enjoy your Yamaha DX9. With your DX, you received a tape of many sets of sounds that can be loaded into the memory of your instrument. These sounds replace whatever internal sounds are present with new sounds. At your whim, you can change either single voices or the entire set of 20. Later, you will learn how to save your own FM digital sounds onto tape for reloading as you please. To change the sounds in the DX, attach the black cord with the 3 colored connectors that came with your instrument to the jacks on the rear of the DX. The white connector is plugged into the tape-in jack, the red connector to the tape-out jack, and the black connector to the remote jack. On your cassette recorder, the white jack goes into the earphone jack, the red connector to the microphone jack, and the black connector to the remote jack. Next, by the use of the function switch, go to position 20 of the set of switches and turn the memory protect off. With the tape and the recorder at the beginning of the set of sounds you want to load, press function, then load. Your display will read, load from tape. If you respond yes with the data entry switch, the display will change and read all. Ready? At this time, turn on the play switch on your cassette recorder and respond immediately with the data entry switch, yes. You will then see the numbers change from 1 through 20 in the display as the sounds are transferred from tape to internal memory. At the end, the display will read finished, and you turn off your cassette recorder, having a whole new DX set of sounds in front of you. Loading single sounds is achieved in a similar manner, and as you read the descriptions of the abilities of the function, you note that beneath membrane switch 9, there is a single load function. It works exactly as does load all, but asks the question through the LCD display, which one? The question is answered by pressing a green membrane memory switch of the number that you have chosen from the entire set. Proceed as you did with the load all, and the result will be a single sound that is entered not into the same location, but rather the buffer with the red LED showing a number 0. Having seen this, you press and hold down the store switch that is located immediately to the left of the function switch, and then press the green memory position switch you wish to have the new sound loaded into. The sound that was in that position has been replaced by the new sound. It is not impossible for me to believe that you may have a little trouble doing this. The problem that you might be experiencing is simple. The loudness level of your tape machine is either too high or too low. If you are having trouble, you will be aware of it, for the LCD display will read error. You just might have to fuss with the output volume of the tape machine for a while. Trust me, it will work. Find the right level and make a note of it. The next time, it'll be a snap. That's it. You're in the bright sunny world, ready to enjoy your DX. You already have hundreds of sounds in your library and can now manipulate these into memories as you choose. You can deal with all playing functions. You're half an expert. It's time for another break so you can enjoy your instrument for a while. When you return, I'll teach you how to program your own tonal creations with FM digital technology by Yamaha. At last, we enter the programming zone, a wondrous area to explore the sound of the future, the joy of entering your own mind's creation into the memories of the DX, the reality of translating a figment of your imagination into the audio spectrum of today. This is FM digital programming. It should be safe to assume that by now you are comfortable dealing with the data entry section of the DX. It is also safe to assume that you are also used to reading the messages in the LCD display. These concepts are used consistently for programming your own sound into the memory of the synthesizer. The technique of digital programming, however, is entirely different from that of old analog instruments that use various wave shapes and filters. This old and somewhat obsolete system is generally called subtractive synthesis. For the basic method used is that of starting with a raw wave shape and eliminating that which you do not choose to hear. With FM synthesis, you are building your own wave shape in order to create exactly what you do choose to hear. Included in this process is creating the internal harmonic motion that is characteristic of natural sounds. With subtractive synthesis, it is typically only possible to shift the harmonic structure at the top or bottom of the frequency spectrum. Before you can start manipulating the various components that are used for the creation of your own sound, it is important to understand the 5 basic building blocks of FM as used by Yamaha in the DX synthesizers. These 5 basic areas are those of pitch, envelope generators and keyboard scaling, low-frequency oscillators, operator output levels, and algorithms. Each one of these will be clearly defined for you, and then you will tie that information together in order for you to be able to program the sound that only you can hear. First, let me give you a broad overview of these components. You should know that FM stands for frequency modulation, a concept of using one audio range sine wave to modulate, or change the harmonic structure of another sine wave. Audio range sine waves are in the range from 20 to 20,000 hertz, or cycles per second. You may be reminded that the A that is normally used for tuning is at a rate of 440 hertz per second. A single sine wave by itself has no overtones. The sound of a sine wave is pure. In order to create a new wave shape, which is another way of saying to create a complex tone, the ratio of pitch of one sine wave to another sine wave is of primary importance. Properly defined, this is called the frequency ratio. Internally, the DX9 has 4 operators and 8 algorithms. An operator is merely one sine wave together with one envelope generator. An envelope generator is a module or component of the system that deals with varying time factors. Over 4 precisely defined periods of time, there are 4 levels of loudness controllable by the new Yamaha envelope generator. The relationship of the positioning of these 4 sine waves and 4 envelope generators or operators is called the algorithm. The correct label for an operator within an algorithm is totally dependent on the position of that operator. Carriers are the source of pitch and can be heard. Modulators change the timbre of carriers, and only their effect can be heard. You must remember that you cannot hear a modulator. You can only hear the results of the modulator. A low-frequency oscillator may beat as slowly as 1 cycle every few seconds. The final building block for FM synthesis is the output level of each operator. These output levels control either the loudness of the pitch, if they are carriers, or the intensity of the modulation, if they are modulators. Let's review that again. 4 operators with controllable intensities are positioned by the use of an algorithm to achieve a particular tone. That tone is capable of having either a vibrato or a tremolo. The duration of the sound is fully adjustable. It's getting easier. One more time. By choosing the relationships of pure pitches and controllers of time, it is possible to create a complex sound that you can hear. The technique of programming itself is rather simple. The terminology or language is the hardest part, but is needed in order to be understood. Let us now take a good look at the algorithms that are available to be used. You remember that within an algorithm, there are 4 operators. Looking at the diagram on the front of the DX, you see that the algorithms number 1, 2, 3, and 4 have 1 carrier. A carrier on the diagram is the operator at the absolute bottom of the chain. Hence, there is 1 source of audio pitch from the first 4 algorithms. Number 5 shows 2 carriers, or sources of pitch. Number 6 and 7 have 3 sources of pitch, and number 8, 4 pitches available. Why? The sound that you are going to choose to create will have certain specified characteristics. For example, a real trumpet can create only 1 pitch at a time. Harpsichords might have 2 strings or pitches playing with each key that is depressed. A chorus of 3 trumpets would require 3 pitches. Electric organs might have 4 pitches heard from each key that is depressed. The correct selection of the most appropriate algorithm, therefore, is based both on the number of pitches required for each key that is depressed, together with the complexity of the tone that is to be heard. Algorithm number 1 is the best choice of a complex brass sound. Algorithm 5 is the best choice for harpsichords or other plucked sounds. Algorithm 8 is the right choice for electric organs or other relatively pure sounds. A good rule of thumb is to choose the algorithm that has the carriers in the right place for the number of pitches per key depressed and the modulators above these carriers to reshape the pure tone of the sine waves to a complex tone of the sound you are creating. The diagram on the DX that is to the right of the algorithm drawings graphs the new Yamaha envelope generator. An envelope generator itself is a controller that deals with time. In the case of the DX, this envelope, as we will now call it, deals solely with loudness. If the envelope is controlling the loudness of a carrier, you will hear the results only as volume changes over time. If the envelope is actually dealing with the loudness of a modulator, which it really is, it will to your ears appear to control the shifting buzziness or timbre of tone. That isn't as hard to understand as it first appears. You remember that you can hear a carrier, but you can only hear the results of a modulator as it is affecting the tone of a carrier. You hear the tonal shift. You listen to the carrier. I am being quite specific about the fact that the truth is the modulators are being controlled by the envelope to create differences in loudness. For a bit later, I will show you a great trick to make all this programming easier by listening to a modulator. Even though that is not possible, it's a programming helper for you. The envelope on the DX has 4 specific points of volume, or to use the proper terminology, 4 levels. These 4 levels are reached by 4 controllable periods of time, and once again, using correct terminology, 4 rates. In the display, you will see that there are 100 positions available for each of the 4 levels. There are also 100 speeds to choose from for each of 4 rates. The numbers in the display read from 0 to 99. With the computer, 0 is a valid number. It does not mean none. It is a period of time, a specific level, or has other meanings, but it does not necessarily mean nothing. Let's chat about envelopes, as they are meaningful to you within instruments you know. A bell, for example, when struck, is the loudest that it can be. Over a period of time, the tone smoothly and consistently becomes softer until it is gone. A plucked guitar would have a similar characteristic, loudest at the moment of the pluck, and smoothly softer. A tuba, by contrast, does not make a sound instantly as would a struck instrument, but takes a little time for the air that the player has blown into the instrument to travel through the plumbing before coming out the bell of the horn. When the player stops blowing, there is also a short time that passes before silence is achieved. While there is a period of time that passes before silence, this time is a great deal shorter than the time required for a bell to stop ringing. The last example might be that of an electric organ, where because of key switches has a sound that is either on or off. There is no build-up of tone. There is no lingering sound when the finger is lifted from the key, on or off. That's it. Envelope generators are a critical part of the development of sound that you are programming. A major part of the success of the reality of the sound that you create lies with careful selection of the time factors of that sound. Another quick review of the Yamaha DX envelope is a good idea. Using 4 rates, it is possible to achieve 4 specified degrees of loudness. These are both labeled in the display window in the units from 0 to 99. Think of it as a trip. What 4 places are you going, and how fast are you going to go to each of those places? As far as the rates are concerned, the measure to you of your speed can most easily be remembered by thinking of the rates as you do in the speed of an automobile. 90 miles an hour is a lot faster than 40 miles an hour. 40 miles an hour is faster than 15 miles an hour. A larger number is a fast speed. A smaller number is a slow speed, just like a speedometer. Closely associated with the envelopes are rate and level scaling controls. Acoustic instruments share a common fact that low-pitched instruments and large instruments require long periods of time to react to achieve silence than do small instruments. A tuba cannot play as short a note as can a piccolo. A tiny bell does not ring as long as Big Ben. The lowest string on a piano, even played as staccato as possible, lasts longer than does the highest note on the same piano. 9-foot-long concert grands have a much longer ring time than does a 36-inch tall spinet piano. In order to achieve these realisms with FM programming, you will find 7 different rate tables available together with 100 increments of level amounts. It is possible, for example, with rate 7 and level 99 for the lowest note of the keyboard to have 4 very long periods of time, or as they should be called, rates, and for the top note of the keyboard to be not much more than a clunk. Envelopes and keyboard scaling are critical components to the success of programming the DX to be realistic in its recreation of acoustic sounds, as well as being equally valuable for sound effects and fancier noises. Oscillators are the source of pitch on every synthesizer. Digital oscillators, such as those used in the DX, are absolutely precise and unvarying in the performance of whatever pitch is created. Literally, any pitch is capable of being achieved through the use of frequency coarse, frequency fine, and detuning switches. Using the frequency coarse selector together with the data entry system, it is possible to produce a pitch from the fundamental of a total overtone series to the 31st harmonic. By switching to the frequency fine selector, the series can continue past the 61st harmonic. An even finer point of pitch determination can be achieved with the detune control. Imagine with me a simple bell tone. The fundamental pitch produced by this little bell might be middle C, but the little brass clapper that strikes the metal makes a very high plink. Therefore, one oscillator should be tuned at the fundamental and another several octaves higher. The relationships of these pitches of oscillators, each to the other, then become significant factors in developing sounds. In certain cases, they will react as pure sine waves, each making a pitch that you choose to hear. In other cases, dependent on the algorithm that is used, they cause different wave shapes to be created. Within the display, as you are programming, you will see, for example, 1.00. This will mean to you that the A above middle C on the keyboard is the traditional A that you expect from this position. If the number displayed were 2.00, the pitch would be 1 octave higher. 3 is an octave and a fifth higher. 4 is 2 octaves higher. 8 is 3 octaves higher. 16 is 4 octaves higher than the fundamental. 0.50 is 1 octave lower than the fundamental. Your later experiments with these pitches will confirm this and let you hear hundreds of other pitch choices. If we were to use as carriers two sine waves with respective pitches of 1.00 and 1.01, there would be a beating effect, just as there is with any out-of-tune instrument. The so-called chorusing effect is due primarily to out-of-tuneness with instruments. Remember this. For some of the sounds that you will create will require beats between carriers. The degree of out-of-tuneness is absolutely tied to the relative pitches of oscillators. Operator output levels are also basic to successful programming. Output level, which is the proper way of saying loudness of a carrier or modulator, is a major part of the development of a sound with the DX. The output level of a carrier is translated to U to mean the loudness of that particular sound or part of a sound. The output level from a modulator determines the timbre of the tone. Greater output levels from modulators increase the buzziness of the sound. Remember that. And also remember that within each operator there are 4 levels that you have established with the envelopes. There are 4 levels basically set within the operator because of the envelope and one general overall output level from that component. If the overall output level isn't adequate to produce the result that you are striving for, it is necessary to return to the levels controlled by the envelope of that operator for there to be a sufficient range for the total to be increased. It is time for something easy. The LFO section of the instrument deals with only the continuous shifts in pitch or tone or loudness. Low-frequency oscillators are assigned to operators for one of 2 reasons. If a low-frequency sine wave is selected to modulate a carrier, there is a shift in pitch. Or to use a simple word for a change, to produce a vibrato. If the LFO is assigned to a modulator, there will be a shift in timbre or tone, something akin to a wah-wah. If the LFO is assigned to the amplitude of a carrier, there will be a change in loudness, which is commonly called tremolo. The speed of the LFO is controllable, as is the depth or quantity of the effect. A delay is also present in the DX, so that there can be a period of time that passes before the LFO effect is started. Just as there was a set of 7 tables for the keyboard scaling, there are 7 tables and 100 levels of amplitude modulation, and 3 tables and 100 levels of pitch modulation. There are several LFO wave shapes to be used. Included is a sine wave for smoothly shifting changes, a triangle wave for more pointed changes, a square wave for stepped changes, a sawtooth for shifts that produce a graduated rise followed by a stepped fall, an inverted sawtooth for drops that rise again, and a sample and hold for varying random step changes. It's time to see how all this works together. For your first experiment, start with Sound 1 from the internal memory. Press the violet Edit Compare membrane switch that is immediately to the left of the green memory select. In the display, you will read 4 important pieces of information. On the top line, you will see which algorithm is being used. To the right, you will see 4 ones. On the bottom row, to the left, is the name of the parameter or part of the building block that can be changed with the data entry slider, and to the right, the output value of that component. Experiment now by consecutively pressing the 20 membrane switches and reading what is happening in the display. Note that the first 4 switches changed the 1s to 0s. As you read the violet labels over switches 1 through 4, there is the indication that you are turning on or off the operators. The 1 indicates that it is on. A 0 shows that it is off. Press membrane switch 5 twice, reading the display each time. This is your first experience with the fact that there may be multiple levels of control to be adjusted under each switch. Switch number 15, for example, the envelope rate, has 4 levels of control. For level 1, 2, 3, and 4 respectively of the operator being worked on. Switch number 16 also has 4 levels. Experiment with multiple pushes for each of the 20 selectors to see which are multiples and which are single item selectors. Having looked at your internal memory voice 1 in this manner, switch back to memory select and repeat the process with the remainder of voices in your DX. About halfway through this process, knowing the name of the next sound, try to guess which algorithm was selected to produce that tone. Try to guess what the various envelope times will be. One of the best ways for you to learn to program your own sound is to see how the several hundred sounds that you already have available were made. After you have looked at the set of sounds just to see what was done, continue this type of experiment by moving the data entry slider with each new selection, reading in the display window how the numbers change. Notice that the first time you moved either the data entry slider or the -1 +1 data entry switch, that a small dot appeared in the LED number display. This is the DX's way of reminding you that you have made a change in the sound. Note also that the violet Edit Compare switch can also be pressed twice. If the red display has a dot, the sound that you can hear is that of the edited or change sound. If the red display is flashing, what you are hearing is the original sound. Since you are not storing any of the change sound, you can lose nothing from the set in memory. Even if you did, you still have the original cassette that you know how to use to reload the DX. I'll wait for you to experiment with this much of the programming information. Now it's your turn. This is it. You are going to program your first sound. Let's make it some sort of plucked instrument with 2 pitches per key depressed. In order for this to be easy to go from scratch, the DX has a voice initialize function. Function. Remember that? It must be something brown because the word function will lead you to the brown set. Press function and then look under the 20 switches until you find item 19. Edit recall / voice initialize. Press this either once or twice, reading in the window which function is available, and then press yes in the data entry section. Read in the window the message, voice initialize, ? Answer through the data entry, yes. The new message is, Are you sure? Again, you will answer yes. Voice Initialize is a great convenience for programming from scratch, for it gives you a simple known beginning point for the creation of your sound. Operator number 1 has an output level of 99. Its pitch is 1.00. Operators 2, 3, and 4 have output levels of 0. There is no pitch or amplitude modulation from the LFO. All 4 envelopes are the same with an immediate starting and stopping time. There is no keyboard scaling. The 4 rates are all 99. Level 1, 2, and 3 of the envelopes are all 99, and level 4 is 0. This 4th level at 0 is going to be typical for most of your sounds, for you remember that all envelopes deal solely with loudness. If level 4 is something other than 0, then there will be sound all the time when you take your fingers off the keys. It will never stop. Carefully write this information onto your human computer. One of these days soon, your DX will not stop making a sound because you have level 4 of a carrier at some level other than 0. Since our programming project is that of making some sort of plucked instrument with 2 pitches per key depressed, we should first choose the algorithm that is best suited for this goal. We need 2 carriers or sources of pitch. Only algorithm 5 is of this configuration. Over membrane switch 5 is the label algorithm/feedback. Press 5 once or twice, having checked the display to see which is called up in the computer, to be changed with the data entry slider or switches. Move 1 until the message in the display says algorithm 5. Now that you are programming, let me comment about the data entry slider and the +1, -1 switch. If you want a large change, use the slider. If you want a small increment of change, then the 2 switches will step the data entry by 1 unit. Only you know which is better for what you are doing. Let me assure you that the units of 1 are discernible. Programmers with limited experience usually make too large an increment of change, and are never aware that they went right by the correct position because of this too great a change error. The next step is to decide how long this pluck sound will last. That is a function of time, so you must create a proper envelope. The envelope, as you remember, has both rates and levels which require decisions from you. Since it is a pluck sound that is being developed, rate 1 will probably be 99. Level 1 will also be 99, because one characteristic of a pluck sound is that it is both the loudest and the brightest when first played. Rate 2 is the amount of time that will be used for the decay of the sound to a lesser volume level. Hence, level 2 must be a great deal less than level 1. Let's make it 0. The rate will be something relatively slow. Let's try 24. Level 3 should be set at 0. Once we have no sound set at level 2, we cannot from a plucked instrument suddenly have sound again. Level 4 is 0, and you know why. Play the keys. That's nice. It's a good amount of time for something that is plucked. It doesn't sound much like anything plucked, however. Right now, you are hearing a single sine wave that makes a pure sound. We must add FM to this carrier from a modulator. Looking once again at the algorithm, you note that operator 2 is set to modulate operator 1. Restated, modulator 2 will modulate carrier 1. You could enter the same envelope information to operator 2, but in order to save time, you can duplicate the operator 1 rate and level information to operate 2 with a slick trick. With your left hand, press Store and read in the window the message that you're going to copy envelope 1 to operator ? Well, it's 2 that we want right now, so with your right hand, press switch 2 and you've finished. You have an absolute copy of the envelope 1 information to envelope 2. It makes sense, however, that you do not have to do this. It very well might be that you do not want these envelopes to be the same, in which case, of course, you enter the 4 rates and 4 levels in the regular data entry manner. Play a note. No change. When a new sound is being created by the convenience of the voice initialize method, the output level of operators 2, 3, and 4 are set at 0. Only operator 1 has an output, and that is 99. Change the operator that you are working on by pressing first switch 11, operator select, so that the display confirms the fact that you are making entries to the second operator, and then switch to number 19, which as you read is operator output level. Let's go all the way to 99. Wow, what a change. This is the brightest this sound will be, for we have the maximum level of both the envelope and the overall output of the modulator. Spend some time now changing the operator 2 output level and learn about the varying degrees of brightness caused by changing the amount of modulation being used. Next, switch back to the first operator and apply keyboard scaling so that there will be more normal and traditional set of time factors over the range of the keyboard. The lowest notes should last longer than the highest notes. Let your ears be your guide. There is no absolutely right and wrong to any of this process. What you choose to hear is right. If you don't like what you hear, change it. Right now, you are the ultimate authority on tone. This is your sound. As soon as you are satisfied with this half of the plucked sound that is being created, it simplifies the completion of the sound if you turn off what you have completed. Switches 1, 2, 3, and 4 make this simple. So far in the display, you have looked at 4 ones. By pressing green switches 1 and 2, you will see that the display reads 0, 0, 1, 1. That means that operators 1 and 2 are turned off. If you play a key now, however, you still have no sound, even though operators 3 and 4 are on, because we have reached this point through voice initialization. Switch to operator 3 and make the output level 99. This time, though, it will be interesting to have the pitch of the second carrier, which is in reality operator 3, be an octave higher than that of carrier 1. Press frequency course, and with the data entry, go to 2.00. That's up an octave, as you can hear. Now, just as you did before, manufacture a reasonable envelope for this higher plucked sound. Perhaps a somewhat shorter time would make sense because of the acoustic phenomenon of reduced time periods for higher-pitched sounds. You remember from our discussion of envelopes that faster times are most easily remembered by the automobile speedometer method. If our first set of envelopes was at a speed, or more properly a rate of 24, and we now want this one to be faster, we choose a higher number. How about 36? For the same reasons as before, let's copy this envelope to operator 4, and then by using operator select, make this output 99. Do something to the rate scaling. Choose an output level different from 99 that sounds good. Play. How's that? In order for you to hear all of what you have accomplished, turn operators 1 and 2 back on. You did it. That's your first sound. It's so good that you can save it. A function is needed to remove the memory protect. Press Brown function, then item 20, and make the memory protect off by the usual data entry method. Now memory select again, and while holding down the store switch, press the memory location where your new creation will live. Proud of yourself? You should be. You did it and discovered that it wasn't all that tough. Just for the sake of your education, let's return to the sound you created and edit it. In spite of the fact that it's a good sound, we'll make a few changes. This time, we're not entering the programming division of the DX through the voice initialize method, so all of the things that you did to create this voice will remain the same. Press the violet edit/compare switch as you did when you were checking out the pre-programmed voices in your DX, and let's do something a bit creative. How about adding vibrato to this sound? Look over the top of the set of switches from 6 through 10. For this is the section that deals with low-frequency oscillators. First, you need to choose a sensitivity to the LFO modulation. Switch 10 does this with the usual data entry method. Be sure to check the display, for this is one of those multi-level switches. Next, go to pitch modulation depth number 9, and again, checking out the display window to be sure that you are going to do what you thought you were going to do, enter a depth. Now go to speed and choose the speed that you believe is musical. It probably will be in the 30-some range. Keep playing and checking until it sounds right to you. Remember, your ears are the only ones that count right now. Feedback and algorithm share the same switch. Note that in every algorithm, there is one operator with a little bracket around it. This means it is capable of frequency modulating itself to produce a more complex sound. With algorithm 5, the one that is being used for the plucked something you created the feedback loop on is operator 4. There are 7 levels of feedback modulation available. Try them out on this sound. When you got too much, the sound distorted and became similar to pure noise. This you want at times. Other times you do not. But again, it is your ears that will be the final determination for what is right and what is wrong. How would your creation be if you were an octave lower? While you are still in the edit mode, press switch 20 and note that the display window tells you that middle C equals C3. The bottom note on your keyboard is called C1. You can figure out the rest. The one and only entry to the computer that does not use data entry is this function. To transpose your sound to either another octave or let middle C equal some other note, after pressing key transpose, play the one key that you want middle C to equal. If, for example, you were to press the G above middle C, your entire sound would self-transpose up a fifth. Remember this trick someday when someone asks you to play something in a different key than you find comfortable. You can play the tune where it is easy for you and let the DX do the work. Store your changed sound. You know how. Go back a few more times and edit your sound. Add amplitude modulation. Experiment. Learn by doing. A while ago, I promised to tell you a good trick so that you can hear a modulator. We both know that isn't possible. You can only hear a carrier. You hear the results of a modulator. Let's go back to your new sound and do a miracle. You know how to enter the edit mode, so do that. Now go to Algorithm Select and switch from Algorithm 5 to Algorithm 8. You are hearing all 4 carriers. Turn off the operators individually as you know how to listen to each independently. Change the time factor of one of the 2 modulators. In Algorithm 5, the modulators were operators 2 and 4. With the different time facets that you can now hear, it might be easier to listen to an audio source rather than a result from modulation. When what is to be the modulator is changed, return to the algorithm that is required to produce the sound and check your results. This technique will probably save you a lot of time, and I believe you will find it to be a great convenience for programming either from scratch or making a creative edit to one of the sounds that is supplied with your DX. Do some more different programs of your own. Experiment with slight detunings between carriers for a chorus effect. See what happens with different ratios of the modulators to the carriers. Spend a lot of time checking out the good sounds that were pre-programmed for you. It really helps. Part of the good news is there is absolutely nothing that you can do while programming that will harm your DX. You may make some strange sounds, but you can't do anything wrong. Let's assume that you have new sounds that you want to keep, or perhaps from the sounds that were supplied with the DX, there are particular sounds from different sets that would be handy for you to have on new cassettes for immediate loading of that group. The system is almost the same as loading from tape to memory. Press Function, read the brown labels beneath the green switches, and save your sounds. Your display will read from memory to tape. There is the usual ready ? Message. And when you are ready, this time with a new cassette in your tape recorder, press the record switch followed by pressing yes in the DX data entry section. At the end of the recording, the DX display tells you to verify the saved sounds. Rewind the tape, and having learned before the proper level for loading, reply yes to the LCD display question. And if everything is correct, your final message will be OK. One last item for you about the DX. There are 3 jacks on the back that relate to the MIDI interface system. This stands for Musical Instrument Digital Interface. And this is a system by which you can play more than one synthesizer at a time by having this connection completed. The output, called out, will be the keyboard that is sending information to the other instrument that is connected to in. All keyboard information together with pitch bending and modulation information is being transmitted through this connector. When you change sounds on the master synthesizer, the slave will change to that same sound number. Several manufacturers of synthesizers now have this system, and your experiments will be among the first to be done. MIDI is new. We all have a great deal to learn about the possibilities from the system. You're in control. There is no limit to your imagination. Use it. Create your wildest dreams. Be inventive. Enjoy your DX. Enjoy music.